Hello and welcome to the RWBY podcast. I am the Crusader against Redhead Erasure. They took Wally West from us. They took Ariel from us. They took April O'Neil from us. We have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. We have to draw a line in the sand and ask ourselves, what are we willing to put up with? Well, not that new TMNT trailer. I'm Mediocrity 4.
It is I, high powered, and I don't really have anything clever to say. I'll just say I definitely had fun with this episode.
We've been kind of digging and ripping on this season a lot, or volume. But you know what? It's not any worse than the current season of the Bad Batch, so I guess we can't complain too much. I'm Dude.
And I'm Coop. And my line in the sand is blondes, redhead genocide worldwide. We will not stop until there is not a single strand of orange left. Death to all redheads.
Jokes on you, Coop. The redheads will never go away.
Oh, they actually probably will, considering the genetic cruelty that is their entire race. Recessive genes, they are actually being, bred out of existence just because the redhead trait is so recessive that everything else just overrides it.
Oh yeah, then explain how I kept hold of the Black Irish genes from the Phoenician exiles of classic antiquity.
I don't even know how much of a meme that is, but whatever. We're talking about RWBY. It's Volume 9, Episode 3, I guess, and it's a big dumb old chess game. What did y'all think about this episode? Because I don't know.
Look, I'll just say this. We definitely have been pretty rough on this volume, so we got to give
we can
credit
be even
where credit is
rougher.
due. This volume definitely. This episode was probably the best out of the volume so far. It was definitely the most fun out of all the episodes of this volume.
Exactly.
The Red Prince is awesome.
The Red Prince was funny. The thing is, all of the issues that I have, and I think we have with this volume, are still present. The only different, and so we've already complained about those a lot, but you know what? At least this episode was fun, and at least it was visually kind of cool looking too. So it doesn't fix the volume, because like I already said, nothing will fix the concept of the volume, but at least I had fun with this episode.
Oh yeah.
I think the episode could have been more fun, though. You know, did we really need to have the castle be a ripoff of an M.C. Escher painting, when instead it could have been something so much greater? A ripoff of Virtual Insanity by Jamiroquai?
Oh my god, I'm so mad now. That's such a great song and such a great music video. That would have been so much better. You're right.
Yes.
Or it's just Tachyon just playing faintly in the distance the entire time by Death Grips.
That I would have been probably less satisfied with that, actually. This
Hot take though, Deeper Underground is a better song than Virtual Insanity, even though they're both great.
The song was actually pretty good too, that they played for this also. It had it did a mix up, halfway through it was doing it had that electric shuffle sort of go to it, where it's oh yeah, the hipsters are let's do not Gilded Age, but what were the time the Flappers win? Was that the Gilded Age? It's been a long time since I've done American history.
The Roaring 20s.
Yeah, the Roaring 20s.
Yeah, it definitely had some jazz horns thrown in there.
Yes.
I like that because you know what? It's really nice to hear some music from RWBY that isn't butt rock for the first time since Volume fucking 2.
Volume 3 had never miss a beat.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That song.
Whatever, but it's been basically butt rock ever since.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a bit of an electro swing kick for a while back there, but that soon kind of faded out of me. I'm not hyper big into swing anymore, except Baby Elephant Walk. That song will always be good.
I like the electro swing song where like the cats go to like the strip club and then they just like.
Oh god, that video is amazing.
Yeah. And they just have and then there's
something
animal
caravan.
Yeah. It's caravan something, and there's like a and it becomes a battle royale. But back to the episode. It's pretty straightforward. It's like, okay, well, they meet the king. The wooden soldiers are like still funny and absurd. Like they're like, oh, it's like I want to play a game, and they're like, what's the rules? And everyone laughs as like they explain the rules as they're playing some weird screwed up version of like
chess.
Backgammon chess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the game is obviously way too simple, but it kind of doesn't matter. Like, I was kind of annoyed with that at first, but then considering what ends up happening, I don't really mind as much anymore because it doesn't really matter. Like, if they would have to put too much effort into coming up with a clever game, and it wouldn't really be worth their time.
Yeah, like, I would have liked the effort, but this is an action show, and it's been 3 episodes, and we haven't had a real fight scene in RWBY, which has got to be like a new record or something. And this was our first real big action scene in the volume.
Yeah, and it was a good one too. I like
we'll get to
Super Saiyan hair.
Yeah, we'll get to the fight later, but so we start off with like they arrive and so apparently the Red King's not a king, he's a prince because something happened to the king, and it is almost certainly Alex's fault. Whatever Alex did to win the game got the king killed, and so now this little kid who this is just a me thing, and this is why I don't know how much I enjoyed this episode or not. There's just something about little characters with high-pitched voices that makes me want to punt them into the sun. Maybe this is just a pet peeve of mine. Maybe I'm just projecting my own self-loathing as a 5'6" man. But I wanted to kick this character so hard, I wanted him to fall into pieces.
I like how whenever the prince gets Petty's sword, it's like, oh, it's green, and then he just like toss it to the side,
like he's a fucking lantern or something.
Yeah, and it's like, and RWBY is like, I'm pissed, like legitimately angry, but like she's like mad.
Like, kid, it's a complementary color. It makes the red stand out more.
Yeah, it's like, do you not realize this is why so many flags are red and green, and why Christmas is red and green? They look good together.
Yeah,
well, he's a little
chili
kid
and red
who
chili go together on a lot of dishes. Fuck, I'm hungry now.
Yeah. And God, RWBY gets so irritated at that, and then he just. Oh, and then the soldiers who tried to take credit tried to completely like chip RWBY out of getting credit for that sword. End up trying to pin all the blame on her for them trying to like take credit, and it results in them getting their head cut, which is very Alice in Wonderland. It might be the most like actual like being in tone and style with Alice in Wonderland without outright just mimicking it note for note. And that's why I'm digging about. That's why I'm digging about this volume. Like it's following a lot of the same trajectory as Alice in Wonderland, but it is giving its own little spin on everything for now.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing.
I'm glad it's not exactly the same, but it's still more similar than I would like personally. Again, I still maintain my issue of it would be really nice if they just came up with something completely different. But yes, it's not as bad as it could be. But again, it's not really a great thing to say, well, it's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah, I mean, that's just RWBY in a nutshell. It's not as bad as it could be.
Hey,
well, there are things worse than Volume 5.
Episode, okay? I still maintain Koto Yuri was actually a fucking good episode of TV, period.
Yeah.
I can't remember which episode that even
That
was.
that was Ren and Nora flashback.
That was the Nora backstory episode, which is
Yeah.
why I
Oh,
remember.
okay. Yeah.
They've had a couple other decent good episodes, but that's definitely one of them. One of like the three.
Yeah. Oh man, I was gonna say something else about that. Oh, as far as because I know I raised the criticism of this fairy tale not being brought up diegetically. Someone corrected me on it, but in their correction kind of proved me right because he pointed to some of the bonus material. I'm trying to find that now, but there was apparently a Neo book that mentioned Alex, the girl who fell through the world, and that this was her favorite fairy tale, and yeah.
Yeah, that does just prove you even more right. If that's where this was mentioned, that's pathetic. We shouldn't have to get to that shit to get this.
Yeah, like this kind of goes back to this thing that I was kind of harping on about back like when Elden Ring came out, where like bonus material it should be a bonus. Like flavor text should add flavor. It shouldn't be something that you have to actively search out for in order to have the basic understanding of what you are doing in a game, or in this case, what characters are doing in a non-interactive story. It was RWBY Roman Holiday was the name of the book. I just found it, and yeah. So
Like the idea that we would have to go through that is ridiculous. Like even fucking Disney Star Wars, who doesn't understand anything about what people actually want, at least understands that you shouldn't have to watch the TV shows to understand the movies. Even they get that. Okay, they don't really get anything else, but they do get that. And plus, come on, RWBY writers, you had so much time to put this in anything else. You had all of Volume 5, where absolutely fuck all happened, and you still didn't manage to put this in there. I mean, come on. It's not like they're it's so dense and they could never fit something like this in.
Yeah, no, it's
he also mentioned that like a story, probably not name drop, but like something about it was mentioned in volume 8, but I did not have the time to verify that claim. So I'll take his word for it on that one. But that was also volume 8. That was a little like too close to the ball there.
Yeah, for me, it's like it's World of Warcraft has had a similar problem with its story, where it's like, oh no, man, you gotta like read the novels like that's between like the expansions, bro. That's where all like the cool story stuff is at. Yeah, man. And I'm like, it's like that one guy who was like yeah, you have to like read the lyrics of the songs because they're all canon. That's where like the real background of the story is, and it's like if I have to look up a Wikipedia article like outside of the show to like understand the plot, it's like hold up a second, where's my trash can real quick as I like throw it in the trash. That's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah.
So
Now in something like Warhammer's defense, as a tabletop game,
no,
it is much more it is. Oh, Warcraft. Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
a problem.
Warhammer is different.
Yeah, Warhammer. I was gonna say like as a tabletop game, like I'm not a fan of Warhammer. I don't like the way it was made. I don't like the lore or the style or whatever. I'm not a Warhammer guy. I'm probably going to get crucified for saying that, but it is what it is. But in Warhammer's defense, as a tabletop game, the fun of the story is the story that you make for yourself with the people you are playing with. It does not need the convoluted backstory or lore. All that stuff can be in its own books. That can be self-contained or not, whatever. And they can all stand on their own. And from what I've heard from people who are into Warhammer, that's the case. So I can't complain about Warhammer on that front.
The only thing that well, I mean, it's not really having anything to do with this, but Warhammer's lore is not real. It's sort of the opposite thing. Yeah, you don't need to understand any of the lore to have fun with it. You don't need to understand any of the lore to understand any of the lore either, because a lot of it gets like retconned a ton. So it's
Yeah, you don't need to know about like the 3 different times like Emperor Karl Franz like spanked Archeon. You can
See,
just play the game.
that's a little bit different than RWBY, where even if you do understand the lore, you're still not having fun.
Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
It is kind of the opposite
Oof.
there.
yeah.
And the thing is, with a lot of like, whether it be comic books, video game franchises, tabletop franchises, whatever, their excuse is generally, this is just what happens when you have multiple writers over the course of several decades. You can't expect the Dan Slott to read all 700 issues of Spider-Man that happened before he, was alive. But in RWBY's case,
Star Wars had an entire team of dudes back when they had their multiple writers in the expanded universe. I don't know if they kept up that team or whatever, but there were people that monitored this shit.
from what I heard, Disney has not done that, but Disney has also not really stretched out beyond the like movie time period enough to where that might pose an issue. It's been a lot of in between goals with the Disney era. But anyway, the punchline to my reference was that RWBY does not have that excuse because 2 of the same writers have been there since day 1.
What'd be the greater irony is that like these books have been made and they never read them or even knew what was inside of the books. That would be perfect.
So Miles has, and apparently so has Eddie Rivas. Because Miles was the one who had to approve of the books. But, in his own words, he has a lot of memory-based problems.
High-functioning alcoholism does that to you. I'm not saying he's an alcoholic, but I'm just saying,
Yeah. I'm glad that he's working in video games now because I think video games are a much better medium for his specific, like, writing abilities. In that he kind of sucks.
But yeah, back to the episode. So the sword gets tossed away, and RWBY agrees to. They agree to play a game. I also am enjoying how like Weiss is just like the punching bag for this entire volume. Like her and Blake just get like pushed out of the way, and Weiss is just like they're really selling it. Like I haven't gotten tired of it yet though. So I hope they kind of keep spreading it. They hope they spread it out a little bit more. But like Weiss is like, wow, was I really that bad? And
I was that line. I was like, I thought that line was funny because like last week or the week before, we just complained about how she wasn't evil enough actually at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which I stand by.
yeah, I think people think Weiss was more evil than she actually was. In like hindsight, and I think that's just people like filling in the blanks of their own memory.
That's what happens when you bring racism into things. Which is what happened with Volume 1.
What exactly are they saying here? Because, okay, like, first off, if we're at the 9th volume and the racism shit was solved in the first one, I don't think bringing it back up at this point has anything to do with anything.
I can't remember why we brought it up last time, but we did, and now we're just
Well,
kind of
last
continuing
time
that line of thought.
it was kind of I remember what we talked about it with last time. That was me specifically saying that they pulled the trigger too soon on it, and that they resolved it too quickly in the first volume.
Yeah, it was the issue. The context in the context of Coop's point was, I think, my point about the issue with this, like, RWBY being sad girl RWBY and all this stuff right now is RWBY as a show doesn't plan things out, and they don't do long form arcs and long form stories. They think everything needs to get done within a volume, which they clearly don't need to do. I mean, much better shows develop things over entire arcs, like an entire show, like entire series, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, for example, developed Zuko. Clearly had that planned out over the entire series, and hence Zuko is, I still maintain, one of the best written fictional characters of all time in any medium. Fight me.
I mean,
and Origairu, I'm watching Origairu right now, which for an anime, they usually do a terrible job of that, but they're doing a great job of developing those characters over the entire series. And RWBY just can't do that. That's point. That was supported by Coop's point of they pulled the trigger too quickly on Weiss's development from a bitch to a good person, which they did it well in Volume 4, but they did it too quickly.
I mean,
she had already gone through that arc in Volume 1.
I'd put a little caveat in there to say that they didn't necessarily need to have it planned out, or at least not perfectly. Like, just having like a general idea of how they were going to do it. Like I said, like a broad outline, like not perfectly planned.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not expecting them to be as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender, but at least better than they did. You have to know where you're going to write the story. You got to know the ending before, and they clearly don't.
That is always my first piece of advice I give to any prospective writer out there. Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, that's kind of I feel like that's always just been like an issue with RWBY in general. I honestly think the show probably, like, if Monty was still around, the show probably would have been wrapped up like probably 4 volumes ago.
I don't know.
It's really hard to say.
All the sources I've said, all the sources I've seen say that the original plan that they came up with was 10 seasons long, and Monty had a tendency of adding stuff last minute, so it might have been even longer. It might have taken even longer to get to this point.
Well, I doubt it would have been longer, because while he was around, they had like a way shorter runtime and a way faster pace, even with him adding stuff. So,
yeah, because at least with Monty, he was able to lock himself in a room and be like, "Hey, check this shit out," as he like animated like a whole fight scene in like 2 days or whatever.
Well, I'm not even talking about like the amount of work time that it would have taken them to get it done. I'm more thinking like just like the speed at which the first 3 kind of went was way faster, and I'm like, what had they kept the pedal to the fucking metal the entire time, like it would have been. I honestly do not know whether or not an epileptic such as myself should have even continued watching such a thing had they continued doing that and he stayed alive. I'm pretty sure it would have been a risk to my health.
Possibly, yeah. So the rules of this game that they then proceed to ignore almost immediately is that it's chess, but it's all pawns, and when 2 pawns meet up, then they fight it out, and may the best pawn win, no matter whose move it was, and whoever gets the most pawns to the other side first wins, I guess. And then Ruby's pieces are all wimpy and battle scarred, and dweeby, and all of the prince's pieces are all like, you know they're awesome because they have spikes on their little noggins. And she's like, this doesn't seem fair. Like, okay, let me make it more fair to you by shrinking down your friends, which, you know, really helps Ruby out because it turns out they're all kind of, you know, badasses. Little did he know, he just shrunk down 3 huntresses certified by General Ironwood himself. But no, this actually kind of screws them over for future fights.
I actually really liked that. I like that they had him do that thinking it was a good idea. It makes sense in the show, like in the context. So that was actually pretty fun, like the way he self-owned.
Oh yeah, I
really did.
I eat that kind of stuff up.
Like, that's the thing, like, I have a feeling with, like, this volume, like, in a vacuum, it's probably going to be, like, a good volume in the vacuum, but everyone's going to be like, oh, it's just a filler it's just a filler arc.
Yeah, no, in fairness, the weird thing is, like, everything I've complained about so far has been about the concept of the volume and issues with the show as a whole, and fuck you for doing what you did to Nora. That's last volume. In terms of like the interactions the girls have had with each other, my biggest complaint with this volume, and the fact that it could be more creative, right? But again, that's still concept. Like, the interactions between the characters and everything have been pretty good. Blake is likable. Yang is pretty likable, which is not something we could have said for a long time, if you remember when we started this podcast.
Oh yeah, I remember those times.
She's not insufferably so right now. I don't hate her right now either. And Weiss is interesting, and she's a good punching bag right now. I don't really have a problem with that. They're solving problems in an interesting way together. It's not a bad volume. It's just the concept is flawed, and I don't see what it's adding to the show. But again, I'm not miserable watching this. And this episode, I had a lot of fun. Plus, we can talk about the fight scene now, and the fight looked great.
Yeah,
I don't have any complaints.
Yeah, Weiss is a Fate Stay Night character now. That bit with the angel wings and the feathers from the Nevermore coming out, hitting the pod pieces. And I like the bit too where like the first paw gets like beat up and the Red Prince is like, okay, you're good, and then like gets, you know, carted off by the stretcher. Like, it's a wrestling match. It's like
a magic little stretcher.
Yeah, it's like a wrestling match. Like, they're doing the Royal Rumble, and it's like, all right, it's your turn to go out of the cage, and now it's like, oh, thank God.
Weiss does have shades of Rin Tosaka a little bit, to be honest with you.
Oh, which Saber would Weiss be? Is she like Saber, or is she like not Mordred Saber? Definitely not Nero Saber. She's probably just Saber.
But her attitude's more like Rin.
You know what I liked about this fight scene? And I haven't heard anyone actually mention this on any of the interwebs I frequent. Blake runs out of ammo. It took them 9 volumes, but they finally had a character actually run out of ammo. They made a whole plot point in Volume 2 about there being dust shortages, and in Volume 4 and 5 about there being dust embargoes. But this is the first time that it's actually, like, dictated the projection of a fight, and will hopefully, if they don't forget this, continue to impact fights going forward, because at the end of this episode, they're still tiny, and RWBY doesn't have Crescent Rose yet. Right now, they are defenseless going into next week's episode.
Yes.
Well, nah, dude.
That's the
one of
thing
the
I
other things.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. You go.
So that was one of the other things I loved about this episode is that they stayed tiny and that they're going to be defenseless. And also Weiss did mention that she was out of or nearly out of dust earlier in the volume too. So I think they are being consistent about this, and I think that is foreshadowing. So I think they will actually pay that off because it's actually the second time they've mentioned it.
Oh
in this
God,
volume.
just imagine if like Yang's arm like runs out of battery or whatever, and so like it becomes useless. Ooh, that would be good too if they did that. Which they never said like it was like how it was powered or anything, but that could definitely be something they could put in.
Blake's like, I really needed that arm. Like, why are you being weird about this? Like, no, you don't get it, Yang. I really like that.
Terrible.
Oh God. Oh. Oh man.
Yang's
well, I'm
arm
trying to remember.
disabled.
Did the,
Blake most upset.
well, I'm trying to remember. In the preview trailer, whenever they ran into the cat, they were all full sized, right? Like whenever the cat's like, I sense a butt coming in. I'm trying to remember. Like I'm wondering if they actually like had the trailer lie to us for once.
It could be that. It could be some deceptive editing. Or it could be something that happens after they get better, which they'll get better. This is, if we're following like Wonderland logic stuff, they will absolutely eat like some kind of cake. Someone even asked that in the questions section. So we'll go ahead and answer it here. Then we'll answer it again because it gives us more content for this video.
Gotta maximize that runtime.
Yeah.
Gotta pump those numbers.
Yeah, pump those numbers up. They will almost certainly eat or drink something that will restore them to their normal height. I actually expect that to be how next episode ends, and for next episode to be about like the dangers of Ruby being unarmed and everyone else being small, trying to use Mirtanaster as a toothpick.
I forgot their weapons had names.
Ruby's like, hey, Weiss, I got something stuck. Can I borrow your rapier? Weiss is like, sure. Hands it back to Weiss. It's all covered in spit.
That would be so humiliating. That's a Ruby Chibi sketch right there.
God, I miss Chibi so much.
I do too.
Oh man, you know what I thought was funny too was whenever Weiss was like, "No, we're stuck in the shitty sequel now." It's like Weiss is reading the script now.
Weiss has been reading the script all volume. He's just not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to picking up on that.
Well, she did give herself a TBI in like the first episode, so there is that.
Yeah. Well, I think she was like under the impression that they were just in some kind of like dreamscape or fantasy world where they were in the place of Alex, but no, the story of Alex in Wonderland TM actually happened, and it happened in this world's past. So now they are not just following the same path as Alex, they're also dealing with the repercussions of all of the bullshit Alex did, which will include, I don't know, because they never established the story before now.
Oh, dude, they do even worse than that in this episode. Like, whenever Yang talks to Blake about the episode, it's implied like, oh, like Blake probably like and Yang probably like read this story together, and I'm like, oh god. And like the only reason why they're doing that is because they've turned their like shipping up into like it's in gear. So like that's like another thing you can get upset about.
Oh yeah, as someone who is Bumblebee neutral, I did find a little annoying how like they would wave to each other and then blush. Like, come on, girls, you've been on a team for like 9 years now. You'd think you'd get over that part of the relationship. Just be normal, please, for a little bit, or as close to normal as this show will ever get.
It's a life or death situation. Like, eyes on the prize.
Yeah. Like, how is RWBY the sensible one in this episode? That's just so bizarre. I do like her in this episode, though. She does a lot of cool things, despite not really being involved in the fight scene.
Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah, I kind of like how she had to like let go a little bit per se of like having to trust, her fellow teammates to be able to handle themselves, which that's kind of like an important thing in leadership, one would say.
Yeah.
I'm really just kind of surprised the Red King didn't respect her red color scheme.
Yeah.
That was a missed opportunity.
That's never
right
even
there.
brought up. Yeah, missed opportunity.
That's a missed opportunity. The red prince could be like, "Oh yeah, man, I appreciate your drip. You don't even need to give me a present."
So yeah, when the team, oh man, I just kind of skimmed to the part where Yang has the giant Buster sword from Weiss's Dread Knight, or Armored Gigas, fuck it, and is being launched by Blake's ribbon, which whatever, and just ground pounds the ring. But then when that happens, the Red Prince is like, "What did you guys say you were again?" And Ruby's like, "We didn't." And then she says one of the weirdest things, which I didn't really catch it or mind it or think anything of it until I saw fan art on Twitter, kind of giving her shit for it. But like, she says, "Well, Blake's a faunus, Little's a mouse, and the rest of us are humans." Like, hold on. Are you saying that faunus aren't a subspecies or race of humans?
I mean, they are a subspecies, but
if I could find that piece of art and be bothered to actually post it in the video, I will, with credit to the artist, of course. I just don't know who it was off the top of my head, and I'm not even sure if I'll be able to find it again. But it was just this comic where Ruby's, and the caption is this allyship? And it's Ruby going on about like how cool and cute and wonderful faunus are, and meanwhile Blake's muttering like, it is kind of weird that we don't have a term to encompass all of us as humankind. Like can we come up with another name for like you not faunus humans? That way we could all be humans, but like I could still be faunus and you could be something else as well on top of being human. Like it's just really weird that you keep treating faunus like they're another species when we have feelings too. Meanwhile, Ruby's just absolutely oblivious to everything Blake is muttering.
I actually liked how Weiss was using her glyphs and stuff to like keep her grounded, and then to let Blake like run across it as they had like the 360 vertigo. Yeah.
I've always loved Weiss's fighting style. There's a reason why I paid homage to it in my book.
By the way, you should buy his book.
Yes, I'm a published author now.
If you get on the Discord and talk to media enough, you'll be able to like have some weird esoteric meme make its way into his novel. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I am a fickle man.
Post hard enough, it could get incorporated into the novel.
Yeah. Especially now that I'm writing like a couple like romance short stories, like now is the time. I need to send that to some of y'all, by the way, when I'm done with it.
Oh yeah, I need to buy it and read it, and then and then we could have a really shitty interview about it.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be content right there.
Oh yeah.
I'd be able to go completely unhinged in that case.
Oh yes. So speaking of the cat, my only concern with the cat, and I think Dude will echo this statement, is I'm worried the cat will just become like the new Crow as their like guide through Alice in
Yeah.
Wonderland in this battle royale Fortnite zone.
Yeah, I
That's
hope not, because obviously one of the things we complained about the show for the longest time was the kids not having agency, and they kind of do now. Again, that's one of my issues with this volume, is that following a fairy tale kind of does take away their agency. But I do also feel like, if he's like the Cheshire Cat, then he's going to fuck with them. So it's not like he's really going to lead them through everything. I don't think that's going to be the case. So I'm not super worried about that. And the fact that that's one of the things I like about Ruby still not having her weapon. They were very deliberate about that. And the fact that the other three are still small means she's going to have to do something and take some sort of ownership. So I hope they don't ruin that by having the cat do everything for them. They could, and I guess I shouldn't be thinking positive because it's Ruby, but I'm hoping that that's not the case.
I can see it being a 1-episode thing, because this is
it's kind of
it is one continuous story with this volume, but each episode has been very distinct.
Not too bad. But then I'll be nervous that they do it for more than one, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, and that's very well. Already, this cat is way more helpful than the Cheshire Cat was. Like, the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland would just kind of, like, show up, shout out some vague nonsense, and then dip.
I think that's more helpful than this cat, honestly.
Yeah,
This
I
cat
kind
might
of
just...
hope the cat's like a what's the equivalent of like an unreliable narrator, but it's like an unreliable like guide.
Yeah, well,
a dick?
There's a there's a difference between not being helpful and being actively unhelpful, and the Curious Cat here is very potentially a actively unhelpful character, with the way he just like spurgs out over a butterfly.
Which I'm okay with. That's better, because that at least means he's not going to be, fucking guiding them everywhere, which I don't want.
Yeah, like if the cat just like disappears and then reappears whenever the plot's convenient, I feel like that's the best way to utilize the Cheshire Cat. And like for, obvious like physical humor where it's like, oh, like head disappeared and everyone was like, oh, scary. And I also like to, it's kind of implied like the cat might have been watching them for like a good bit too. Because, you see like the eyes after like mentioning that they were like humans. Which part of me, it's like, the cat probably knows what a human looks like. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the story that Weiss lays out in what was it, the last episode. Yeah, so, and speaking of, like, potential next episode, I'm trying to find part in the opening.
Are we gonna talk about Neo?
Yes. So,
I forget, did they, like,
Neo is
mention
here.
her? Oh, okay.
She shows up at the end. We see her crash land as the
Neo
Jabberwocker is going
match.
from a place. The Jabberwocker from episode 1 is like running away. He's bleeding for reasons.
He's headed to a buy station so he can get some more plates.
Yeah, and he crosses this bridge between what looks like the starting area with the like banana looking trees and this area of like fog and shadow, the mammoth graveyard, which also has like a bunch of junk and other little environmental details that it has a lot of dead trees. But he sees Neo crash land. I don't know how that works. I don't know why Neo's crash landing so long after everyone else did, because clearly the Jabberwocker has already run into Team RWBY at this point. And she like creates a bunch of clones of herself and then is shocked at the fact that she's able to create clones. Like, all right, I got my team now, Team Neo.
Fine. Neo's like, fine. I guess I'll do it myself. As you spawn your own crew, as she spawns her own like crew. Well, and then the Jabberwock bleeds too. And hold up a second. I need to take a hit. It's weird. But hold up a second. I need to hit my meth pipe real quick. Okay, hear me out, guys. What if the Jabberwock's John?
Ooh.
I wouldn't.
Well, now that you said that, now that you said that, I won't be surprised if that is the case. But I'm still hedging my bets on that he is the Rusted Knight.
Why has it got to be something different exactly? Like, I don't see why he would have weirdly transformed into something else.
Well, on top of the reason why I'm picking the Rusted Knight is because on top of the whole knight aesthetic being kind of his thing, and that being the theory since before we even saw the Jabberwocker, because the knight is in the trailer and Jabberwocker, from what I remember, was not. In the opening, there is the picture of the Rusted Knight and also a giant like horse-sized rabbit, and we all know rabbits are a thing that Jean is, and we know that because of the cereal mascot sweater from Volume 4, and also his dream sequence in Ice Queendom, because that's apparently more relevant than most RWBY volumes. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Y'all didn't see Ice Queendom. John gets infected by the nightmare before Weiss does, and Pyrrha, Ren, and Nora have absolutely no problem breaking him out because he's not an absolute fucking basket case like Weiss is. And he is like a little rabbit Jean, and it's really cute. And he gets attacked by the Grimm, and then Pyrrha saves him. And then that becomes a plot point later on because he like builds a natural immunity to the Nightmare Grimm, and his weapons then become like kryptonite to the Nightmare Grimm that infects Weiss. So that's what allows him to kill the dream version of her father. I am not making any of that up, by the way. That all really happened in Ice Queendom.
I don't doubt you.
See, that all sounds more fantastic than this fantasy world they're in this volume.
It kind of was. Like, Ice Queendom was not bad. It was just pointless.
And also, like, weirdly skits out on some weird psychic DMT hyper shrooms or something, apparently, according to your description. Like,
yeah, it's very Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors.
Did they update what Neo's model?
I don't think so. I think that's the same model she had in volume like 6 onward. I think 6 is when she came back and teamed up with Cinder.
Is it funny whenever they were ganging up on the Jabberwocky, I was expecting them to do kind of like a, what was it, like the Greasers bit, whenever they like go up to fight and they're doing like the synchronized like snap dance as they're like slowly surrounding it, as they're like approaching it.
So ridiculous.
Like, I kind of was like, oh man, if that happened, that'd be perfect.
So, yeah, the only things we haven't, like, directly talked about, the Red Prince flips out. He cries marbles, which is a choice. A creative choice. For sure. And, he flips out, the cat kind of, like, you know, gets him to stand down, long enough for Ruby and Co to start making an escape. And then the cat like teleports them to the red forest and is like, "Oh yeah, I'll help you out as soon as I catch this butterfly." And then we get the scene with Neo, and then that's it. That's the episode. Any more thoughts? Anything else that we missed that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, like it's just a good episode. Like it's just like, yeah. Let's get to the questions. It's just
Yeah, it was okay.
it's hard to theorize because it's like, okay, well, like what's part two? Are we gonna meet like the blacksmith lady now?
There's basically I don't know. They're probably just going to do something in regards to something. There you go. That's my prediction.
Yeah. So getting into questions now. Emetric asked if Team Ruby dressed as the Spice Girls, who would be what member and who would they get as the fifth member? Well, clearly, Jean is the fifth member.
Ruby is baby because she's the youngest. Blake is I don't know which one she would be. Yang is Sporty Spice, obviously, and White is Pop Spice.
See, I never
Pretty
listened.
easy, except for I don't know what.
Yeah, I never listened to
See,
the
here's
Spice
the
Girls.
thing. I know either really, but I watched Formula One, and the team principal of Red Bull is married to I think it was Posh Spice. He's married to one of the Spice Girls, so that makes me remember some of the Spice. That it's made me know some of the Spice Girl stuff.
I'm old enough to know about the Spice Girls, but I don't. And this question made me feel old because I'm turning 30.
Same.
So I don't like this question. Where's my gun?
Same.
Yeah, the only thing I would have like equated it to that I knew anything about was it would be like the Hex Girls from Scooby Doo, but like there's only 3 of those, so it doesn't even line up.
Yes, the better version of the Spice Girls.
The better version of Josie and the Pussycats as well. They were like, what if we took girl bands but made them hot goth vampire mummies?
Because that was the early 2000s, and that's what was in.
It still is. It never stopped. The train has kept on rolling.
Which is why the Hex Girls continue to be popular. Imperator Dragon asked if Team RWBY were to be in a twerking contest, who would win and why?
None would win.
It's like the image of like Alvin and the Chipmunks and they're getting head, and y'all have to decide who's giving the best sloppy toppy. It's the same question.
It's true. There's only 3 Alvin and the Chipmunks though as well. Are trios better than like 4-man groups? Like the only 4-man group we've talked about has been the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You guys should ask whether or not which Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle each one would be. That's a better formula for the question there.
Oh God, who would be the best out of the 4?
Well, RWBY's the leader, so I guess she'd be Leonardo by default. God, it's really like Yang is definitely Michelangelo. Yang is definitely Michelangelo.
Hell no, Yang's not Michelangelo. She's the fucking brawler. She's Raph for sure.
Okay,
I mean, I'm not gonna argue with that.
I like how we're totally sidestepping the twerking question.
Look, the twerking question, I'll tell you right now, they would all lose to the first girl who had an actual ass that showed up.
Yeah, they would all lose. They would all lose
asses. That's right.
They would all lose to Jean.
She doesn't have an ass.
They would all lose to Jean.
Except Blake, kind of, and even her is like it's mid tier. I guess Blake wins because she's a minority. Whatever. Fuck.
Weiss walks up to John. That's like, yeah, that's right, John. Do the arc shaker. Yeah, that's right. Push that armor down. Yeah, that's it. Put your hands off of that as you do the arc shaker. Yeah.
Yeah, Weiss would definitely lose though because she is by far the flattest member of the team. She's as flat as planet.
It probably would be a coin flip between Blake and Yang.
I feel like Yang would try harder. Like Yang might win just for out of the four, just for like actually like trying.
The attempt would be made harder, but it would be extreme. Yang is the flattest of them all. Have you not remembered her in those winter pants?
The Coop, this may come as a shock to you. I don't look at cartoon characters' butts very often.
Liar.
I said very often.
Okay, fair enough. But the point is that Yang, weirdly enough, is actually the flattest member of the crew.
Yeah, it's like she's very oh my god. Oh my god, yeah, a character even says that she's top heavy. Leon did in their fight. That's the thing that someone actually said in the show.
God, this question. Please, let's go to the next one.
No, I like
you attempted to slap her on the
hold on, Mr. What was the question?
Oh, who would out of the four girls, who would be the best at a twerking competition? Hold up a second. I need to grab my gun real quick after saying that out loud.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry I asked I'm sorry I asked for the question.
All right.
You cannot hit my ass. It is the flattest ass there is. Your smack would just slide right off.
Now I'm reminded of the Boondocks bit where it's Grandpa is like, now I need to find me a white woman with big tits and a flat booty.
That is the dream for some people. I am very butt neutral.
You need to have at least enough to grip. That's all.
I'm a man of balance, so as long as the upper half and the lower half are pretty balanced out, I'm happy.
Unless she's like absolutely tiny, there's no excuse not to have like just enough to dig your claws in.
Christ. Next question. Thor G1058 asked, do you think they are going to unshrink themselves? Yeah, we kind of already answered this. They will unshrink themselves with, maybe not eat meat cake specifically, but with some kind of like food or drink concoction. A stereotypical gamer asked, the obvious one, is Neo an actual credible threat to all of Team RWBY with her power-up this episode? I think a basic ass like Beowulf would be a threat to RWBY as they are right now, as tiny as they are. Neo, definitely. Neo, even before then, would like hold her own against. She was able to hold her own just fine against Team Juniper. Granted, Juniper nowhere near as strong as RWBY, but you know they got Nora as a powerhouse. They got Rin as like their fast, skilled martial arts person. They had Oscar and also Jean, and she kind of beat all of them up in what was that, Volume 7 that happened. So yeah, I think with her power up, she could be a cool fight scene.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Probably.
I mean, anyone want to play devil's advocate on this one?
I'll play devil's advocate on the thing I just agreed with. Just do it.
I love you, Coop.
So the reason why Neo would be a terrible fight scene is precisely because all of the people that are protagonists are currently unarmed or tiny. Having a fight scene right now would basically just be a shit stomp. You can't have a fight scene like that. You got to give them at least something to use that puts them up on an even playing field, sort of.
Yeah, what's Weiss gonna do? Like, go like under her nail and like stab her rapier like under between like her nail and like her finger? Like, what's Weiss gonna do, huh?
Blake
Like
just
the size of a
starts
mouse.
Blake starts swinging around Neo like Kratos during the Kronos boss fight in God of War 3.
Yeah. Or like, what is Weiss? What is Yang gonna do? Like, climb into her ear and use her eardrum as a punching bag? Actually,
Oh,
not a bad idea.
even worse. Remember, Neo herself is a womanlet. She's like 4'3" or something.
Yeah.
And so, like, what if they get enough of the potion to regrow, but they can only regrow to like the same size as Neo because it's just only that much. So that leaves Yang and Neo the same height, and they're forced to have a complete midget wrestling tournament or something.
In bikinis with oil. Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. That was a
That's the
dojin, a
Turkish
RWBY
form of
themed
it, I
dojin that
think.
I read once.
This is why I could never do this on my own. I would never be able to come up with stuff like this. Not on the spot anyway. So Aubrey Harris asked, from what we've seen so far in the chapters and trailer, what character do you think is the version of herself Alex left behind? I'm not sure what you're asking there.
There's like two versions of the same chick. What's going on here?
I don't know. I think they might be under the impression that the team is going to run into Alex at some point. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I was pretty sure that was the case in episode 1, but we're 3 episodes into it now, and it doesn't look
It's
like
on
that's
the
gonna
fence, I would
be.
say.
Doesn't look like that's gonna be the case. Maybe at the very end, and it'll actually be like Alex herself saying like, "Oh, the power was in you all along. Just tap your ruby slippers 3 times and say I want to go home."
Yeah,
Which
I'm
is
glad.
Oz,
I'm glad
but not.
they're not.
Yeah.
Alex. Glad they haven't run into her yet because I really don't want another character.
Me neither. It's gonna be hard enough getting Jean back.
Oscar was bad enough.
Why? Yeah, we are like a third of the way through now that I think about it, because it's supposed to be 10 episodes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, to bring her in now would be kind of weird. Like, I don't know. But then again, like they have the visuals of her throughout the opening too, so to not bring her in would also be weird.
They might do a whole episode. They might have like an episode that's like a flashback of this with Alex or something. I don't know. I don't know. I like not knowing. By the way, I like not knowing. I like being able to go into this kind of blind with no expectations whatsoever and be like, "Oh,
nice,
that's neat."
It is kind
Yeah.
of nice.
It also does make it difficult to answer such questions, though.
Yeah, like we're not even quite sure what you're referring to there. Quiet Message asked, "What do you think causes a semblance to evolve? Stress, some realization, hatred, or plot convenience?" The answer is yes.
Yes. Sideways
All of the
Chad yes
above.
face.
Yeah, so it would seem.
Then last question. This isn't even a serious question. I don't even know if they meant it as a question. John Barriston asked, "Can you imagine the terror of being Neo's boyfriend after this episode?" Yes, I can. I have thought about it a lot. All my life.
Oh man, just imagine like the role play you could do with like Neo as your girlfriend. Oh god, it'd be amazing.
She's the perfect girl.
Oh,
Complete crazy chick who'd stab you, and she can't talk.
oh,
Really, just
she probably gives like a mean sloppy toppy. Like you would be like your soul would be sucked out of your fucking penis, and you would just die. It would be, oh god. And then you could be like, hey, babe, like, can you like transform into this lady? And like you hold up your cell phone, and she like
So weird.
rolls her eyes and gives you like a little pouty face, but then she like does it anyways.
yeah.
And like, oh god, oh,
I man,
oh,
I always found bringing like superpowers into those sort of situations to be really weird. Like I always found it weird in X-Men comics when Mystique would be like, "Oh, I could be whoever you want me to be, baby." Like, no,
Didn't they?
that's
And then
weird.
Magneto's like, no, I want you as the blue lady.
Wait,
Stay
didn't they
blue.
make that? Didn't they actually address that in The Boys? Like, doesn't one of
I
the
don't
female
know.
characters like kill a guy by fucking him or something? I thought that was a thing. I never watched the show because
Oh,
I heard a story, so I can't watch it. But I thought that was a thing that happened. They actually like addressed like the superpower sex.
They might have. I don't really remember. I never
I
did. I watch it?
remember there's a. I think I might have mentioned this before on like a podcast like 80,000 years ago. But there is a comic. There's a it's like a bunch of the ladies from like the Justice League, and they're all like having conversations of like who's the best person to like have sex with, and they're like, oh, what about Superman? It's like, oh, Superman's too much of a Boy Scout. And then it's like Batman. It's like, oh, he's got too many like hangups and stuff. And then they're like, what about the Green Lantern? It's like, well, like he's only limited by his creativity, what he can do with his like ring. And then they all like stop and pause, and then they're like, the Flash. The Flash would probably be like the best one because he could just like vibrate his entire body at like however whatever speed he wants to vibrate at.
You got to think he's going to come quick too. It'll be over in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, but that 2 seconds will feel like a lifetime.
Now I'm thinking about like because in the Ultimates comics written by Mark Millar, who I think is a fucking hack, um, he actually had like Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne using their like shrinking powers in the bedroom, and I was just like, no, dude, what are you doing?
Now I'm
It's
thinking
so
that
dumb
comic
and
panel of
weird.
like Ant-Man just like sitting on like a shower head as he's like watching some lady shower. He's just got like a
This is
smug smile
this
on his
is the
face.
same volume of the Ultimates where Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp, who has like 2 PhDs, is sent in to like distract the Hulk, and the only thing she can think of is to flash him her tits, and it works. And
I
Hulk
mean, I'm
says,
just
and I quote, "Hulk the horniest one there is," because that's how Mark Millar writes. He writes like a 12-year-old.
Well, you know what? I gotta give. He makes me want to give the RWBY writers a little bit more credit. Shit.
I have a personal vendetta against Mark Millar. He's probably not all that bad. He's just kind of juvenile sense of humor. But I take offense to him because when they did the Ultimate comics in the 2000s, he was put in charge of the Ultimates, which was the Ultimate version of the Avengers, which means that he was put in charge of Captain America. It was like a big preemptive middle finger to me specifically, like 10 years before I was old enough to actually care.
oh god, yeah, the Ultimates that came out when I was like in middle school or something, if I recall.
Hey,
That was
I gotta go, guys.
Ultimates
I
Volume
gotta
2
go,
was
guys. So I'm just
yeah,
gonna say,
we're gonna
it
wrap
was
up here.
yeah, it was a good episode, and I gotta go. I'm actually looking. This time, I'm actually looking forward to the next episode rather than just watching it out of obligation. So that's nice.
Yeah.
See y'all. So I'm not just watching it so I can hang out with you guys. See you
Yep.
next week.
Yep. See you later, dude. Um But yeah, Ultimates Volume 1 I think came out in like 2001, 2002. But I didn't read it until like 2006, 2007, because that's when I like fell headlong into Marvel Comics and started actually like reading more than just like the 2 or 3 characters I was already familiar with. But anyway, yeah, that was actually the last question, and yeah, I think I came around to liking this episode, even though the Red Prince just rubbed me the wrong way. He was the downside to this episode, and the only downside. The rest of it was pretty solid. For a RWBY episode, that is. Anyone else got any thoughts before we wrap it up?
No,
No, that
that's
pretty
about
much
it.
summed
Good
it up.
episode.
Yeah.
Alright, well, like we said, I have a book out, The Hellfire Brats, Book 2, coming this summer. I also have a Substack and a Twitter, and you should join the Discord. And like, comment, subscribe for more content like this.